Hey guys, welcome back to ArxangelRC. It is time for another review, and yet again it is one of a micro racing copter. However, this time it is a brushed one. I'm talking about the model advertised as FSky Vantac Q100 on Banggood. Links are in the description below. Honestly, when I saw it, I was a bit excited about it, as I thought actually FSky made it, but as it turns out, that is hardly the case. Actually, it is called FSky Vantac because it comes equipped with an FSky XM receiver and also comes fully assembled and ready to go. Everything else seems to be exactly the same as on the KingKong Q100, and even though that one you have to assemble yourself, it is a lot cheaper, and even when you add the receiver. By going with the Vantac version, I have paid over $30 for a receiver that costs $10, but I did also get it fully assembled, which is not a bad deal for me, as I find these micro models very annoyingly fiddly to put together. But if you don't mind assembling this yourself and saving over $20 in the process, check out the KingKong Q100. It is the same as the Vantac, and it is a marvelous model for what it is, and for $48 shipped for the version without a receiver, this model is more than twice as cheap as any other comparable brushless model in the same size, and to be honest, performance is not lacking at all, quite the contrary. The Vantac / KingKong is the absolute best brushed copter that I have ever flown, and it is even better than the E90X I reviewed a few months ago, and that one really raised the bar for brushed copters. It comes with lots of spare props, a 1S 550 mAh battery pack, and that's about it. Equip it with a micro receiver of your choice, do some setup and go flying. A note about the setup though. As the flight controller in this one is not F3, it comes with CleanFlight preloaded on it. However, I was able to easily flash Betaflight, and it actually seems to work pretty well without any issues. So all I had to do now was charge the battery and go flying. One thing I didn't like about the video system though, it is the same as the one on the KingKong 90 GT, which means it only has 16 channels, and none of them were the one I'm using on my other systems. But it is a small inconvenience to change the channels on my goggles, so I was ready to fly in no time. Once in the air, the copter is seriously impressive for a brushed model, and with the Betaflight firmware on there, flight performance is outstanding even with the stock PIDs. The flight modes I programmed seem to work perfectly, and the copter handles very well, so I think there will be very little work needing to be done to make this really perfect. In my surprise, it is even flyable in the stabilized modes, and it handles pretty well without rocking or oscillations or any other weird behavior like I have on some other models. One thing that I found weird about this frame was that the grips supposed to hold the flight controller in were a bit too wide, so the board would slip out without too much effort, which is certainly bad, especially if you're flying at the moment. To fix this, I tied a small zip tie around the board and the frame, and that seems to hold it in place very well. Also, stock, this model comes with the camera mounted flat on the frame, which would not be optimal for some faster flying, so I unglued it and mounted it at an angle. The last thing I will have to take care of would be the video antenna placement, because right now it is lying flat on the battery, and I think this may be part of the reason why the first time out my video signal was appalling even though I was on the correct channel on my goggles. Not sure why I didn't do this from the start, but anyway, it will be properly placed from now on. In any case, don't expect miracles in terms of range out of this video system unless you're using a directional antenna on your goggles, and even then keep in mind that you will be limited by the receiver you have chosen. So is this thing worth $80? Probably not, unless you have no idea what to do with a soldering iron but want to get into the world of drone racing on a budget. If I had bothered to check before I bought this, I would have saved $22, because the unassembled version without a receiver is $48 and the FSky XM receiver is another $10. $22 for the assembly of this thing is quite expensive, especially when you consider labor costs in China, but some of you may prefer it that way, and at least I didn't waste any time assembling and soldering, but rather went straight to flying. So is this worth $58 unassembled with an FSky XM receiver? Absolutely. For that price, it is more than twice as cheap compared to most brushless alternatives in this size out there, and I think it is also one of the cheapest of the brushed versions, and in my opinion by far the best flying one that could give some of the brushless ones a run for their money. The Vantac / KingKong is certainly not an indoor model, or at least not for tight indoor spaces where you would normally be able to comfortably fly the Pokey FPV or the Untitled FPV. You would need a larger indoor space, but I would rather keep to the outside with this one. It has speed, it has amazing stability and flight performance for a brushed model that is on par with some of the brushless alternatives, and apparently the flight controller works well with Betaflight, which is not something you will find in the description of the model, but it is a fact in my experience. So in my mind, this model is an amazing opportunity to get into the world of racing micro drones or on a very small budget, especially if you already have a radio. Pair this with a Devo 7E and it would be the perfect entry-level system even for somebody who hasn't flown a copter before, especially with the stabilized modes working as well as they do with the Betaflight firmware. This is a good option even for those of you who want to take a break from those hardcore racing machines you're probably used to by going with something a bit more gentle. And the whole thing costs about as much as 2 or 3 motors for the serious racing drones. So whether this is the right copter for you is up for you to decide. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Facebook for daily updates. If you fancy any of the items featured in this video, please consider supporting my channel and buying these via the links in the description below. It would be greatly appreciated and will allow me to bring more quality content to you, my viewers. Happy flying now, and I will see you again very shortly.